My name is Andrew. I'm 60 years old now, but this story began when I was just 20. Back then, I was a young man full of dreams, eager to fight for my country. I could never imagine that being a soldier would not only test my courage, but also profoundly shake my perception of reality. I tell this story not only to share what I experienced, but to remind everyone that there are mysteries in this world that we will never fully understand. We were deep in the heart of a jungle, a group of American soldiers trying to survive day after day. My best friend, Jack, had been my inseparable companion since training. He was brave, loyal, and had a way of cracking jokes even in the worst situations. He was the one who gave me strength to carry on, even when fear was overwhelming. One day, during a routine patrol, we were ambushed. Chaos ensued, gunfire, explosions, and shoutouts. I remember throwing myself to the ground, trying to protect myself. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in front of me. It was Jack, with the same determined expression he always wore. He pulled me to a safe shelter, dodging bullets and debris. "Stay down, Andrew," he shouted with an authority I had never heard before. Thanks to him, we managed to evade the ambush. We survived that day. But something was off. Jack, who had always been outgoing and playful, was now so calm and serene. I asked if something was bothering him. He looked at me intensely, with a brotherly gaze, and said no. Everything was fine, that he had never been better, and that this moment would stay with me forever. "You should live each day as if it were your last, Andrew," he said, with a conviction that left me unsettled. Jack was acting very strangely. We had known each other since childhood, were next-door neighbors, went to the same places, and I had never seen Jack like this. His demeanor was almost supernatural. What troubled me most was the feeling that he was saying goodbye to me. After the ambush, as the platoon regrouped, I searched for Jack again. I couldn't find him anywhere. I asked the other soldiers if they had seen where he went, but no one had a concrete answer. "Maybe he went to check the perimeter," suggested one of the guys, but I knew that didn't make sense. Jack always let me know before he moved away. Anxiety began to grip me. The dense, humid forest around us seemed to hide more dangers than we could imagine, and the silence after the ambush was deafening. My mind raced with dark possibilities. Had he been captured? Or worse, was he injured somewhere, needing help? I decided not to waste any more time and went to the sergeant, explaining the situation. He, with a hardened face from previous combat experiences, nodded with concern. "Let's organize a search," he said, raising his hand to summon some trusted men. "We can't leave anyone behind." As the search party formed, I tried to stay calm, but anxiety tightened my chest. Jack was more than just a fellow soldier. He was my friend, someone I could count on. We walked through the jungle, alert for any sign. We called his name repeatedly, hoping for some kind of response. With each step, the weight of worry increased. At one point, a soldier raised his hand, indicating he had found something. I ran over and saw a clue, fresh boot prints in the muddy ground. My heart raced. It was a sign that Jack might be nearby. We followed the tracks cautiously, alert to any movement. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, our commander came with a somber look to deliver the news. He had started to do the Bicecasts and looked for among the casualties in that conflict, and one of them was Jack, who had passed away at the beginning of the armed conflict. This came as a bomb to my head on as dead. I spent with him almost every day in this disturbing place. I was with him. We helped each other. Thanks to him, I am alive. And you come and tell me that he died since the beginning of the conflict. I'm not crazy. Jack was with me. Search again. I had an anxiety crisis and had to be calm. I fell into a deep sleep. At night, while we were in our improvised camp, reality began to unfold in an even more surreal way. I had a vivid dream. I was back in our hometown, on the street where we grew up. Jack was there, sitting on the porch of his house with that same serene smile. "Andrew," he said softly, "don't be stuck in the past. The future is uncertain, but you have the strength to face it. Return to Christy, marry her, your happiness is with her." Christy was Jack's sister, with whom we had dated in adolescence. We broke up because she did not accept my enlistment. I woke up abruptly, with my heart pounding. The jungle around me was silent. Only the nighttime sounds of insects and local fauna broke the silence. I was filled with a sense of urgency, as if I needed to find Jack immediately. I searched the camp, but he simply wasn't there. The next day, the captain gathered us. There was a somber expression on his face. He informed us that Jack had passed away at the beginning of the conflict, shortly after the ambush began. The news hit me like a blow. How was that possible? I had spoken with him. He had saved me. As the captain explained the grim details of the operation and how Jack had been fatally wounded early on, a sense of shock and disbelief gripped me. It couldn't be true. I had just seen him, spoken with him. His voice and determined eyes still echoed in my mind. The pain of loss began to mix with confusion. How had I not realized he was critically injured? Why didn't he ask for help? 1,000 questions tormented my mind, but no answer brought comfort and answer of what I had experienced in those days with my best friend, who apparently had become a ghost and went to me even after he died. Soon I believed. The Battle of the Somme. The Battle of the Somme, fought between July and November 1916, was one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. It is estimated that over 1 million soldiers lost their lives in the trenches of France in brutal combat that forever marked the memory of World War I. But beyond the actual carnage, the Battle of the Somme also became known for its supernatural accounts. Soldiers from both sides, haunted by the atrocities they witnessed, reported ghostly apparitions, disembodied voices, dark premonitions, and other inexplicable events that added a terrifying layer to the war. Trench ghosts. Apparitions of fallen soldiers. The Somme battlefields became a stage for frequent sightings of soldiers who had perished in combat. British soldiers reported seeing the ghost of General Stonewall Jackson, while the French witnessed the appearance of their own fallen comrades. Ghostly whispers and moans. Nights in the trenches were often tormented by whispers and moans that seemed to emanate from nowhere. Soldiers believed these sounds were the voices of the departed souls of soldiers who had lost their lives. Premonitions and shadows of death. Visions of death. Many soldiers reported having premonitions of their own deaths before battle. A British soldier, for instance, dreamed of his death on the night before the Battle of Albert, and his vision became reality the following morning. Shapeless shadows. Soldiers on both sides reported seeing shapeless shadows moving in the trenches, especially at night. These shadows were often associated with death and misfortune. Other strange events. ETA moving objects. Reports of objects moving on their own in the trenches were common. Military equipment, weapons, and even soldiers' personal belongings seemed to have a life of their own, moving without explanation. Strange lights in the sky. Unexplained lights in the night sky were frequently seen by soldiers during the battle. Some believed these lights were divine signs, while others associated them with the presence of ghosts or other supernatural beings. The causes of the supernatural events at the Battle of the Somme remain a mystery. Some attribute them to extreme stress and fatigue among soldiers, while others believe in paranormal explanations. Regardless of the cause, the supernatural accounts of the Battle of the Somme had a profound impact on the soldiers who fought there. They served as a reminder of the fragility of life and the mortality that surrounded them, further intensifying the horror of war. The Battle of the Somme remains a dark chapter in human history, and the supernatural reports that accompanied it serve as a reminder of the terror and devastation that war can bring. The Somme Diary. A terrifying trench account, July 1st, 1916. The air is heavy with anticipation and fear. Today is the day. The day we will finally advance on the German lines and break the deadlock that has plagued the Western Front for so long. We have been preparing for this day for months. We trained tirelessly, dug trenches, and stocked ammunition. We know the battle will be bloody, but we are determined to win. The bombardment began at dawn. The roar of the cannons is deafening, and the ground trembles beneath our feet. Explosions send columns of smoke and dust into the sky, obscuring the sun. At 7:30 a.m., the signal is given. We leave the trenches and advance toward the enemy lines. German machine guns start spitting fire and soldiers fall like flies. I see my friends being killed around me. Fear takes hold of me, but I press on, driven by a sense of duty and the adrenaline coursing through my veins. After hours of combat, we finally reach the German lines. But the resistance is fierce. The Germans refuse to give ground, and the battle turns into a bloody hand-to-hand fight. I see a German soldier staring at me with hatred in his eyes. He raises his bayonet and advances toward me. Instinctively, I dodge his blow and stab him in the chest. Scene makes me sick. But there is no time to think about it now. The battle is not over yet. I fight for hours more. Every minute feels like an eternity. Finally, as night falls, the order to retreat is given. We return to our trenches, exhausted and wounded. The day was hell. We lost thousands of men, and the objective was not achieved. I sit in a trench and write in my diary. I try to record the horrors I witnessed today, but words fail me. I don't know what the future holds for us. But one thing is certain. The Somme War will be forever etched in my memory as a terrible nightmare. July 2nd, 1916. The night was long and cold. The silence is disturbed only by the groans of the wounded and the barking of guard dogs. I can't sleep. The images of yesterday's battle haunt my mind. I see the faces of my dead friends, the blood on my hands, the bayonet of the German soldier in my chest. I feel sick. Will I survive this war? July 3rd, 1916, today, I witnessed something strange. While patrolling the trenches, I saw a ghostly figure wandering through the mist. The figure was tall and thin, dressed in a World War I uniform. His face was pale and his eyes were empty. I approached cautiously, but the figure dissolved into the mist before I could reach it. I was shocked by what I saw. Was it the ghost of a soldier who died in this battle? I don't know what to believe. But one thing is certain. The war is affecting me in ways I never imagined. July 4th, 1916. Last night I had a terrible nightmare. I dreamed I was trapped in a trench full of corpses. The bodies were decomposing and the smell was unbearable. I woke up sweating and with my heart pounding. I'm starting to feel afraid. Afraid of the war, afraid of death, afraid of the future. July 5th, 1916, today, one of my friends was killed by a gas attack. He was coughing and choking, panic in his eyes. He died in my arms within minutes. My friend's death left me shaken. I know that sooner or later it will be my turn. July 6, 1916. I'm tired. Tired of death. Tired of everything. Sightings, visions of the supernatural through the trenches during World War I. A British soldier reported an extraordinary experience while in the trenches in France. On a particularly dark and cold night, he was on guard duty, carefully observing enemy territory through binoculars. Suddenly, he saw a solitary figure moving silently among the shadows in no man's land. Curious and cautious, the soldier focused his binoculars on the figure and was shocked to realize it was his own brother, who had died in combat months earlier. The soldier felt a mix of fear and hope as he watched his brother walk unhurriedly, as if on a mission. Unable to believe what he was seeing, the soldier set aside his binoculars and rubbed his eyes, thinking that the exhaustion of war was causing him to hallucinate. However, upon looking again, his brother was still there, steadily nearing the enemy trenches. Desperate to understand what was happening, the soldier called his comrades, who also saw the figure walking through no man's land. They watched in silence, unable to explain how a dead man could be there, clearly visible to all. Before they could react or try to approach, the figure suddenly disappeared before their eyes. The soldier and his comrades were stunned and disturbed by what they had witnessed. Some considered it an omen or a warning from beyond, while others attributed it to the fatigue and extreme stress of war. This supernatural event haunted those soldiers for the rest of their lives, reminding them that in times of war, the unexpected and inexplicable could arise, challenging their beliefs and understanding of the world around them. There are reports of sightings and supernatural experiences that intrigued soldiers on both sides of the conflict. One notable account involved an incident near an abandoned church used as an outpost by Union soldiers. On a dark night, a sentinel soldier saw a luminous figure floating over the battlefield. The figure seemed to emit a soft golden light, and many of the soldiers who witnessed the event reported a sense of peace and protection upon seeing it. Initially, the soldiers thought it could be a beacon or lantern light, but as they observed more closely, they realized it was something much more mysterious and inexplicable. Some described the figure as an angel, whose wings seemed to gently move in the night wind, while others simply saw it as a celestial presence. The Union soldiers who witnessed the event reported that the figure remained visible for a few minutes, hovering over the battlefield before suddenly disappearing. This experience left a deep impression on them, many of whom interpreted the sighting as a sign of divine protection amid the carnage and chaos of war. Such reports of supernatural sightings during wars are not uncommon and often serve as a source of comfort and reflection for soldiers facing extreme situations. Regardless of personal interpretation, these events highlight the complexity of the human experience in times of conflict, where the unexpected and inexplicable can manifest in surprising ways.